Welcome to the Modern Agora, our weekly forum for dissecting the critical issues of our time. Tonight, we delve into a question that touches the very core of our democratic values. Do government surveillance programs invade personal privacy? It's a complex debate, balancing the state's duty to protect its citizens against the individual's right to be free from unwarranted intrusion. To explore this, we have two distinguished guests. Mr. Marcus Thorne, a former intelligence analyst who will argue for the necessity of such programs, and Ms. Lena Petrova, a human rights lawyer who contends that these programs pose a significant threat to our civil liberties. We will begin with opening statements, followed by rebuttals, a moderated discussion, and finally, closing remarks from each of our guests. Let's begin.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Good evening. The world we inhabit is, regrettably, fraught with dangers that are constantly evolving and increasingly sophisticated. From international terrorism to organized crime networks and state-sponsored cyber attacks, the threats to our national security are multifaceted and demand a proactive rather than reactive stance. In this context, government surveillance programs, when implemented responsibly and under strict legal oversight, are not merely useful. They are an indispensable tool in our arsenal to protect the public. Consider, for instance, the numerous plots that have been thwarted precisely because intelligence agencies were able to intercept communications or identify suspicious patterns of behavior through lawful surveillance. These are not abstract successes. They represent lives saved and catastrophic events averted. The digital age, while bringing immense benefits, has also provided new avenues for those who wish to do us harm, to plan and execute their activities. To ignore these realities and advocate for the dismantling of our surveillance capabilities would be, in my view, a dereliction of our duty to ensure public safety. I understand and respect the concerns about privacy. Indeed, privacy is a cherished right. However, it is not an absolute right, especially when weighed against the collective security of the nation. The key lies in establishing robust legal frameworks, independent oversight bodies, and technologically advanced methods to ensure that surveillance is targeted, proportional, and used only when strictly necessary. We can and must find a balance where privacy is protected to the greatest extent possible, without compromising our ability to identify and neutralize genuine threats. Ultimately, a secure society is the bedrock upon which all other freedoms, including the freedom to enjoy privacy, can flourish.
Good evening, Dr. Hayes, Mr. Thorne. While I acknowledge the complex security challenges we face, I must firmly assert that widespread government surveillance programs inherently and unacceptably invade personal privacy, a fundamental human right. Privacy is not a luxury. It is the cornerstone of individual autonomy, freedom of thought and expression, and a healthy, functioning democratic society. It is the space where we can explore ideas, form opinions, and engage in personal and political activities without the fear of state scrutiny. When citizens know, or even suspect, that their communications, their online activities, their movements are being monitored, it creates a palpable, chilling effect. People may self-censor, avoiding legitimate discussions or associations for fear of being misinterpreted or flagged as suspicious. This erodes the vibrant public discourse, essential for democracy. Furthermore, the potential for misuse of the vast amounts of data collected is immense. We are talking about highly personal information, our beliefs, our relationships, our vulnerabilities. History has shown us repeatedly that such power, once granted, is prone to scope creep, expanding beyond its original justification, and that oversight mechanisms, however well-intentioned, are often insufficient to prevent abuse or error. The promise of security is often used to justify these incursions, but we must critically ask, at what cost? Are these programs truly making us significantly safer? Or are they creating a society where an atmosphere of suspicion and conformity prevails? The very notion that one must sacrifice liberty for security presents a false dichotomy. A society that sacrifices essential liberty for a little temporary safety deserves neither liberty nor safety, and will ultimately lose both. We must prioritize the protection of our fundamental rights and seek security solutions that do not dismantle the very freedoms we aim to protect.
Ms. Petrova raises valid points about the importance of privacy, and I don't dispute its significance. However, her characterization of surveillance as inherently and unacceptably invasive paints too broad a stroke. The chilling effect argument, while often invoked, tends to overlook the fact that modern surveillance, when properly regulated, is not about monitoring every citizen indiscriminately. Its primary focus is on individuals and groups who present a credible threat, based on intelligence and evidence, not on stifling legitimate dissent or everyday conversations. Law-abiding citizens engaging in lawful activities generally have little to fear from systems designed to pinpoint genuine dangers. The aim is precision, not pervasiveness. Regarding the potential for misuse and scope creep, this is precisely why we advocate for, and largely operate under, strong legal safeguards, judicial warrants, and multi-layered oversight from parliamentary committees and independent review bodies. These mechanisms are designed to prevent abuse and ensure accountability. Are they perfect? No system devised by humans is, but they are far from the ineffective rubber stamps that some portray them to be. The goal is not mass, unchecked spying. It is targeted intelligence gathering, a critical component in a complex security landscape, designed to protect the populace from harm, not to oppress them.
Mr. Thorne's reassurance about safeguards and targeted approaches is comforting in theory, but often falls short in practice. The nothing to hide, nothing to fear argument is a dangerous oversimplification. Firstly, the definition of a threat or suspicious activity can be incredibly elastic and subject to political interpretation or governmental overreach. What is considered legitimate dissent today might be labeled a threat tomorrow. This ambiguity itself contributes to the chilling effect, as individuals cannot be certain what might draw unwelcome attention. Secondly, while oversight mechanisms exist, their effectiveness is debatable. Often, these bodies lack the resources, technical expertise, or full access to information required to conduct truly robust scrutiny of complex, secretive surveillance programs. We've seen instances where information was withheld or oversight was sidestepped. Furthermore, human error, technological vulnerabilities, and the sheer volume of data can lead to misinterpretations and wrongful targeting, with devastating consequences for innocent individuals. And let's be clear, many so-called targeted programs begin with mass data collection. Huge datasets of communications or internet activity are gathered and sifted through, meaning the information of countless innocent people is inevitably swept up and stored, regardless of whether they were the initial target. This normalizes a level of intrusion that should be exceptional, not routine.
Thank you both. This brings us to a crucial question. What is an acceptable trade-off between security and privacy, and who, ultimately, should decide where that line is drawn? Mr. Thorne, perhaps you could begin?
The trade-off is dynamic, Dr. Hayes. It shifts with the threat landscape. In an ideal world, we'd have perfect security and absolute privacy. But we don't live in that world. Decisions about this balance must be made through democratic processes, involving legislators who are accountable to the public, guided by intelligence professionals, and subject to judicial review. It's a collective responsibility.
Ms. Petrova, your perspective?
I believe the premise of a, quote, trade-off is often misleading. Fundamental rights, like privacy, should not be items for barter. The onus should be on the state to prove unequivocally that any infringement on privacy is strictly necessary, proportionate, and the least intrusive means available. Too often, National security is used as a blanket justification, without sufficient scrutiny. The decision-makers must include strong, independent bodies, with a primary mandate to protect rights, not just security agencies.
Let's consider new technologies. Mr. Thorne, how do tools like AI and facial recognition, increasingly used in surveillance, affect this balance? Do they enhance targeted efforts or increase risks of mass monitoring?
AI and facial recognition, when ethically developed and deployed with strict controls, can significantly enhance our ability to identify genuine threats more efficiently and accurately. They can help sift through vast amounts of data to find the proverbial needle in the haystack, potentially reducing the need for broader, more manual surveillance. However, the potential for bias in algorithms and misuse is real, which is why development must be coupled with rigorous testing, transparency in how these tools are used, and clear limitations.
Ms. Petrova, your concerns about these technologies?
These technologies represent a terrifying escalation. AI-powered surveillance and facial recognition create the potential for near-total automated monitoring of public spaces and online activities. The risk of error, inherent biases being amplified, and creating a permanent digital record of everyone's movements and associations is immense. This isn't targeted. It's a framework for mass surveillance, regardless of initial intent. The safeguards Mr. Thorne mentions are often outpaced by the rapid deployment and capabilities of these tools, and true transparency is frequently lacking.
What about data storage? How long should data collected through surveillance be kept? Who should have access? And how do we mitigate the ever-present risk of data breaches, either by malicious actors or state misuse?
Data retention policies must be strictly defined by law, Dr. Hayes, based on the necessity for ongoing investigations or intelligence value. Access should be tightly controlled, logged, and auditable, limited to authorized personnel with a legitimate need to know. Robust cybersecurity measures are, of course, paramount to protect this sensitive information. No system is impenetrable, but we invest heavily in making them as secure as humanly possible.
The very existence of these vast data troves is a profound risk. Data, once collected, can be breached, misused, or repurposed for ends never originally intended. The longer it's kept, the greater the risk. We need strict minimization principles. Collect only what is absolutely necessary for the shortest possible time, and with robust, independent oversight of its storage and eventual destruction. The default should be deletion, not indefinite retention.
In conclusion, while the concerns raised about privacy are entirely legitimate and must always be part of the conversation, we cannot afford to be naive about the dangers that confront us. Government surveillance, conducted within a strong legal framework and subject to rigorous oversight, remains a vital instrument for national security. The men and women in our intelligence services are dedicated to protecting our way of life, not to undermining it. Their intention is to prevent harm, to stop those who would commit atrocities, not to oppress ordinary citizens. The challenge is to continually refine the balance between security imperatives and the protection of individual liberties. However, in a world where threats are ever present and evolving, ensuring the safety and security of the populace must remain a paramount responsibility of the state. This isn't about choosing security over liberty, but about ensuring the security that allows liberty to exist.
To summarize, the pervasive nature of modern surveillance technologies, coupled with the state's expansive powers to deploy them, poses an unacceptable and escalating threat to personal privacy, freedom of expression, and the very fabric of our democratic society. Privacy is not a commodity to be traded away for vague promises of security. It is an inalienable human right, essential for individual dignity and autonomy. The quote, chilling effect of mass surveillance is real and corrosive. We must demand far greater transparency from our governments regarding these programs implement stronger, truly independent legal protections, and foster a societal pushback against the normalization of being constantly watched. True security is found not in a surveillance state, but in a society that robustly defends the rights and freedoms of all its members.
Mr. Thorne, Ms. Petrova, thank you both for your compelling arguments and for engaging in such a crucial and thought-provoking discussion this evening. You've clearly articulated the profound tension that exists between the collective need for security and the fundamental right to individual liberty, a challenge that societies worldwide continue to grapple with. There are no easy answers, but understanding the different perspectives is vital. We hope this debate has provided our audience with valuable insights to consider as they form their own informed opinions on this complex issue. Thank you for joining us on The Modern Agora. Good evening.